Hello and welcome back to Rage Gaming, and today, a very special video. As you might have heard from Josh as well, we were incredibly invited by Capcom to try the game early last month. We were allowed to join a few other creators to play out the first section of the full game, only stopped at a certain point. So in that time, we were able to experience a lot of different stuff, like hunting, of course, Chatacabra, the first monster that we did in the beta, but then quematrice, lala barina, Congalala, of course balahara, doshaguma, and finally Uth Duna herself. Which means, yeah, we got to experience the Scarlet Forest in all its glory. This experience was very unique, so I want to say a huge thank you to Capcom for that opportunity. We've just been asked to follow some basic guidelines with the footage we use, what type of things are okay to show and talk about, and obviously we want to stick to that as best we can. So I just need to let you guys know that this was a preview of the full game. After all, the game was still in development at the time we played it, so at launch, you never know what might be different. So please keep that in mind. For this video though, I want to discuss the opening first few hours of the game, the experience and the light details of that journey. But cutting to the chase, I think this is going to be a very special Monster Hunter game. And to put that across, there's a few topics I want to go through. To begin with, let's actually talk about the key main theme that's different here in the opening section. In this story, we're a uniquely experienced hunter exploring an unknown territory. This is represented, say, by the Hope set, which we've had described now as their most involved, important beginner set. It is made clear through the gear that you're wearing, from the design of the weapons or the outfit, that you are a ready and adaptable hunter, that you can take on any challenge and respond well. You're already the ace hunter that's basically bringing it all together. The hunter in all the scenarios is often the one who takes stock, considers the situation and finds a solution. In the cinematics that you guys have seen from the beta, there's examples I could give where you're, say, assessing the crazy situation with the horde of balaharas chasing that girl on the seikret, and you manage to spot the one other seikret that's trying to catch up. You don't even know what it is, but you dive onto its back even without a weapon, because you don't really need it, you're a living weapon yourself. Things like identifying weaknesses, such as using screamer pods against the balahara, or later with that initial chatacabra, you find a spiky bush and shoot it into the face of the monster. So from the beginning, you're that hero that's saving the day, and you look like it right from the first scene. In my experience with it, the other characters already know and respect you. They've heard about you, and some of them are just seeing you in action for the first time. NPCs will acknowledge your return and praise the speed at which you did whatever you did, or maybe the context of what's just happened. So there's a big difference here. There's no experienced guild that you're joining and helping and learning from. You're all here in the Forbidden Lands for the first time, blindly learning about it. So it all feels very fresh in that perspective and the approach story-wise. And what I really like about this is how it gets straight to the point. In Monster Hunter World, you really prove yourself and become that star hunter, there's no doubt about that. But in Wilds, we're already going, and you're just thrown in instantly with both feet. And that feels really good to just get in there and go, as someone that's been playing this series for a while. To kick us off then, we know from the beta that we arrive on the scene having helped someone from an unknown tribe that somehow lives here. We came here with multiple mini teams all serving different purposes of that main goal together. So you've got the two hunter teams, but also researchers, the supply team, the support team, your smithy. You're here to establish some kind of functional base to research from, which means we quickly get that base camp going. But as you likely know, there's not exactly a generic hub and then locale you fast travel to. In each of the different locales, we seem to have some kind of base camp we've set up for that purpose, and then the world itself is uniquely connected in Wilds. Physically, you'll walk from the Windward Plains into the Scarlet Forest. That creates a seamless world in a way we've never seen in Monster Hunter before. We're able to set up mini camps, those pop-up tents around the world, customizing the setup we have in the locale. But further than that, you can now cook on the spot, anywhere, assuming you're not going to instantly be interrupted by a monster. You carry not one, but two weapons now, to swap based on what you might prefer in that moment. The quests aren't start and stop the moment you finish the hunt anymore. You could just choose to keep going, attacking something else, starting a new quest, or picking something specific by talking to Alma, who's your handler, who's already right there with you in that moment. So the concepts remain, but the rules for how and when you engage with them have actually changed quite a bit, all with that seamless approach at its core. It results in a very fresh progression feeling, because your gameplay is way less broken up by things such as regular loading screens that cause that start and stop nature. It feels much more real because of this change. Now that's intentionally leaned into during the story. There's these moments where you're traveling to the village of a tribe you've just met, and you're learning about the zone you're in, the locale at large, but also the little details around you. Maybe you're directed to look at massive, distant structures or other places you might go to in the future. But you're also looking at what's in front of you, the endemic life that's struggling to live in its own way right now. You hear about its nature and the details of the current time it's in. You're being taught about how it all connects to the ecosystem it's based on. After certain moments in the story, the locale changes to a time of plenty, and then the feeling's totally different. There's a lot more going on, there's a lot more life, less of a constant feeling of danger. Even people from the tribe of the Windward Plains are traveling through the plains. But then take the other locale, the Scarlet Forest. You enter, and the immediate feel and vibe is completely different to the Windward Plains. A completely different ambience from the different calls of unknown creatures that exist here, the croaking, the buzzing, distant wings flapping and chirping. It's a story through the audio that you're now in a living jungle compared to the open plains of the Windward Plains. Now journeying through, you meet the Wudwuds, the tribe living in the Scarlet Forest of course, who happen to be angry with you for not respecting the rules and the life around you. On the way to their base, you see them struggling with life too, foraging for supplies, they warn you about different small monsters, and as you squeeze into their home, you make a deal with them to become on friendly terms. Before any of that though, you'll first encounter one immediate strange thing about the Scarlet Forest, this red water. There's a discussion about what's causing it, different reasonable theories, and all of it of course slowly builds to that encounter with Lala Barina, storytelling through the environment which might build up mystery or the danger of the situation. And you can really feel how much care and detail they've given to the world and how it's connected now. So I hope I put that across well, but now I just want to talk about the 4 monsters we had the chance to fight early, those not actually in the beta, starting with the fire chicken, quematrice. This is indeed a very friendly beginner monster, much like chatacabra was, with clear telegraphs and timings of attacks to help you learn, but without like a massive amount of options that it's going to do. It has a distinct hitbox for the head, the center of the body with the 2 main legs, and then that big wavy tail at the back. It's very physical and slow with its body attacks, whether it's pecking like a chicken or turning the tail to slowly slam down. Obviously, it's making use of fire elements, so you've got to be wary of fire bite, and it's done through the tail, spreading it by whapping it like a fan that spreads out the fire. So it might spin in a circular pattern to make a ring of fire, enhancing the range of the attack, or it'll whap out just a fan of flames in one direction or other. Now I imagine with the way that fire spreads from weapons like gun lance during say the time of plenty, standing in fire spreading through a field of grass is pretty nasty for ticking damage if you stand in that. I could imagine this monster then could create some nasty fire zones in the right place if you were to fight it in the time of plenty. But overall, I think they've done a good job of making a lovable beginner monster that should also be friendly to new players, learning about how elements change a monster's design and the dangers of the fight. On the other hand then, Lala Barina, a new spider-like monster. This is incredible, and it is very unique, even whether it's a spider or not. It's the way that it moves. It's almost like it's just stopping and turning and dancing and moving around at hyperspeed, starting and moving super quick and then stopping. Somehow, it's not as creepy as maybe that sounds though. It's the way that it's dancing around that actually makes it quite a cool monster to just look at. It twists and turns very quickly, but obviously rhythmically, like a dancer, a ballerina. Something I noticed about it though was the very unique sounds. Have a listen to some of this. I guess I didn't know what it would sound like, but yeah, it's very unique. Of course, the massive flower on its back is where things get particularly interesting, as it's spreading those florets around the fight as it moves. Of course, if you touch those, you start to get paralyzed, so you need to keep moving and managing their location to avoid that. So I found in this experience that the fight would steadily move around, as Lala Barina tries to control the area, making it more of a threat to stay in one place, but then you guide it away and move away from the now deadly location, as together you basically dance around the zone. On the topic of Congalala, this is just a lovable one. Contextually, this monster is messing with the wudwuds and the honey supply, of course, but they also describe it as big, stylish and cool. because they want its fur as well. Congalala essentially introduces you to new concerns, such as the fact that it has that horrible breath that gives you that ailment, where you'll need to cleanse it with deodorant as a new cleansing tool. With Firebite, you might have used nullberries, but here we have to use something different. Further, it's a monster that's going to use different tools, whatever is available around it. It collects those mushrooms and uses them against you, picking them up with the tail to use to enhance the moveset. So where you might initially just have that horrible gassy breath to deal with, after one mushroom's consumed, now you're dealing with poison breath too. So a different ailment at the same time. Maybe later it consumes another mushroom, and now you're dealing with blast blight. So again, as another earlier monster to challenge, it teaches you about different mechanics and the way a fight can change based on what's happening with that monster. And of course, if you can control the situation and prevent it from, say, eating one of those mushrooms, you can keep it more manageable. Now lastly, for Uth Duna, what can I say about this? It has an incredible introduction that I obviously am not going to spoil for you guys, but it's introduced in a totally different way to all the other monsters. This feels much more intimidating. But of course, the raw size of her is maybe one of the most impactful things you're going to experience going through the initial story and the monsters it poses to you. This is also the first time you experience weather impacting what's happening. Here in the Scarlet Forest, you have the downpour and where the water levels have risen and the environment changes. And with Uth Duna, obviously she's affecting the environment that you're fighting in. As she stands in the deep waters and does slams and different attacks, waves spread out, possibly giving you water blight, but also messing with your ability to control your character, making you vulnerable to her follow-up attack that might be coming. As a larger monster, the range of her attacks is a lot wider, so you need to be aware that standing too close to her, even when she's not directly facing you, could get you hit. She has breakable parts that are going to expose her. Those massive fins that are protecting her, you want to get through those and expose the true creature underneath. You're introduced to the super moves though, where say she goes out of bounds and starts slamming these huge waves to buffet you and knock you down and lose control of your character before she comes and slams on you at the same time. So she's our first monster that's going to introduce to you how the environment and the current weather really affects the situation, to help introduce even more important mechanics like that. But yeah, I'm going to leave it at that today. Obviously, we want to stick to their requests and guidelines, not spoil you guys too much either. I just hope that I put across that opening experience of Wilds and how incredible it's been. I think the cinematics and the contextual conversations and the way it leads into different monster encounters is really well done. There aren't huge gaps between monster fights. You get a lot of good action, but the way it's all connected and affects the nature around you, it feels very immersive. So this campaign, I think, is going to be a much more memorable one. So I hope this talk was enjoyable, but for now, I've been Hollow, you've been you, and thanks for watching.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.